All right, welcome back to the afternoon session. Thanks for resisting the urge of sitting by the pool for the rest of the day, because I keep walking by that window and wanting to go out there. All right, for this afternoon, Keeping Builder Green, Tyler Jones is returning to us from the USDA. Please welcome Tyler.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Digon, for hosting this, and thank everybody else for showing up and making this summit conference training what it is today. We really appreciate that. Despite what the agenda said, I'm not up here by myself. I also have Andy Anderson. He's the technical manager at Alpha Facilities. Alpha is one of the contractors USDA works with to manage their builder data, and they do a lot for us in our yearly sustainment process. Today, I'm going to talk about the background information for USDA ARS, and then I'm going to pass it over to Andy to talk about the sustainment process, and then finish up. He'll pass it back to me, finish up with the challenges. This is the George Washington Carver Center. That's ARS's headquarters in Beltsville, Maryland. Everybody can read the mission statement for ARS, but what it pretty much boils down to is if you consume it, ARS probably does research related to it. So that's grains, fruits, vegetables, meat. A little bit of background for ARS, and I know we're a little acronym sensitive here, and I said it yesterday, but for those of you who didn't hear it or are new, ARS is Agricultural Research Service, and that's the research arm for USDA. We have 93 locations, CONUS and OCONUS. There's only 2 outside of the continental U.S., and I think that's Hawaii and Puerto Rico. And then we have another 90 work sites that are associated with those 93 locations. There's over 2,800 owned buildings and 14.7 million square feet, which in the grand scheme of things of federal agencies that are in this room, that's pretty small, but it's important to us. This is a map of ARS's locations. We're broken down into areas. We have a northeast area, a southeast, a midwest, a pac west, and a plains, and each of those areas have a area office that kind of manages in the same way as like a MCOM or an AMCOM or a TACOM type organization. So I know you guys have heard a lot about builder-specific information, and I kind of wanted to take just a quick reprieve from that and do a little bit deeper dive into some ARS locations and focus specifically on like what type of tasks and what type of products, just to give something different. I know everyone has heard Builder all week, and you may or may not be getting tired of it depending on how much you enjoy Builder. So the first location I wanted to talk about was University Park, PA. They are partnered with Penn State University, and what they do, or their mission statement, is research to support environmentally and economical sustainable farming in the northeastern U.S. by improving agro-ecosystem management. They only have 4.5 acres of government-owned land. They only have 22 buildings, but a big point here is the last 2 bullets. The average age of their buildings is 54 years old. I know everybody in this room has old buildings. It's a common problem we all face. And then their main laboratory building was constructed in 1937. It's currently going through a major renovation project right now. Some examples of typical research tasks that are performed at this location. You have sample preparation, sample storage, laboratory analysis, and you can kind of drill down into more of the specific tasks that are associated with those big areas. And then going in a little bit farther, greenhouse and growth chamber, fabrication, modification of instruments. That one was kind of a surprise to me. When I came to ARS almost a year and a half ago now, I wasn't anticipating research facilities doing a lot of their own fabrication and modification for equipment and components. We also have office and computer analysis. A lot of the research isn't even done in the fields per se, but it's more crunching the data afterwards. Another one I wanted to highlight, and this one's kind of close to home, is College Station, Texas, and I wanted to use them. And I wanted to use them to kind of show the products that the research generates in the field. So their mission statement: research to improve the productivity of important southern crops and to increase the safety of meat and poultry products reaching the consumer. They're on 62 acres of government land, 40 buildings. Again, average age of the buildings is 42 years old. Their main laboratory was constructed in 1971. One of their big research units is aerial application. You can see from the two pictures that they use the prop plane, and one of the newer fields that they're getting into are drone application. And the drones aren't typically used for mass application, but either for surveying or to pinpoint specific problems and to apply specific pesticide type things to certain areas. Another research program that they do is insect control and cotton disease. That right there is pictures of, the one on the right is a picture of a boll weevil, and the picture on the left is a sorghum disease crop. Another research group that they do is germplasm research, and with the germplasm research, a lot of the organizations or a lot of the locations around the country usually work with a particular crop or a particular product, and they end up being the seed bank storage for the national agriculture. And with that comes cold room equipment. A lot of them have very specific humidity and temperature cold room equipment to store those seeds, to be the seed banks for the country. The picture on the left is cotton flowers, and you can just kind of see the variety of the different flowers that the different germplasms for cotton plants will produce. The picture on the right is pecans, the pecan shells. Pecan shells? I guess you can tell what part of the country I'm from with how I say that. But again, you can just see the variety in the shells. So to me, in my mind, when I think cotton and pecans, I only think of one product, but there's a lot of variety within those two crops. The next research program I wanted to highlight for them was the food and feed safety. And the picture on the left is just some, whoever has fond memories of microbiology, some cells. And the picture on the right is some happy pigs. To moving on from those two things and getting more into the background of how ARS uses Builder and how we manage our sustainment process. So this is just a breakdown of our facilities, and you can see we're heavy on lab office facilities. So a lot of times the lab are paired with the researcher typically has his lab, and then right across the hall he has his office. So 50% of our portfolio is lab office, and that's really what our main focus is on when we're doing sustainment. These next few slides, I just wanted to highlight how we use our facilities and just point out a few more facilities that might be or might not be a little more unique to the DoD agencies in this room. I know a lot of other agencies have a lot of research-heavy facilities, but I just wanted to highlight that for everybody in the room. So you can see some pictures in this slide of scientists working in labs, and some of the more unique equipment that goes into those labs are the reverse osmosis systems, the big walk-in refrigerator that I already mentioned, that wasn't straight out of the box in Builder, that we had to build that inventory for. This next facility, I don't know how many other agencies are in this room are going to have the animal facilities that we have. You can kind of see in the pictures the cows, the pigs, and the other picture in the top left, I was told not to say exactly what that was. Moving on, greenhouses. There's probably, I don't know how many other people have greenhouses in their inventory. Some of the more unique components with the greenhouse facilities are the window glazing, the growing lamps, and the big ventilation fans that keep those operating at good condition. Specifically, diving deeper into how ARS uses Builder. Of our 93 locations, we have 82 of those that have been assessed and have their facility data within Builder. That ended up being 2,300 buildings, 13 million square feet. We completed our assessments in the 2015 to 2020 timeframe, and we used the uniformat A, B, C, D, E, and F sections. We had to add over 100 specialized components to the cost book catalog. And listening to NNSA, that's just a drop in the bucket, but it was an extra step that we had to do to get Builder to work for us. We did also complete functionality assessments, and we did that for very specific instances, and that was for laboratory facilities that cost us over $1 million in PRV. The use of Builder for us, our PRV is matched to the CRV that comes out of Builder. We trust that number more than what we trust in our real property system of accountability. The total requirements, deferred maintenance, that's probably our biggest KPI. We're really worried about what our deferred maintenance is, and we really want to know that number to request funding. The Builder Condition Index, BCI or CI, we use this number to rank projects when we do our capital investment strategy, and that's a big KPI for us when we're comparing projects, apples to apples, when competing for funding. The funding situation, just to give a little update on that, we don't get separate sustainment funds. Like I said yesterday, it's required by the locations to budget for their sustainment funds out of their research dollars, which kind of makes it tough because their budgets, they're pretty lucky if they go up with the cost of inflation that year. The headquarters does get $20 million, which isn't a whole lot of money, to dole out for repair and modernization projects that compete between the locations. This last bullet point is probably where Builder has helped us the most by giving us that deferred maintenance number for each location. A lot of the universities and the lobbying organizations that are partnered with our locations can then use that number to say these are our needs, and those universities and other lobbying organizations can ask Congress for particular funding. And we have seen, since we've been given our locations the deferred maintenance number, we have seen good response to that. And we've gotten a lot of locations get extra funding for sustainment that they wouldn't have normally gotten just by asking headquarters. Data maintenance. USDA ARS location personnel are only granted read-only access. It's all centralized. The data maintenance is managed at the headquarters level with the help of our contractor, Alpha. We provide them yearly status reports, and you'll see an example of one of those reports on the next page, which many of you have probably seen something similar. And then the last bullet point, we utilize Searle to host and maintain our Builder database. So this is just real quick an example of a report. And on that report, you can see the number of buildings, the total square feet for that location, the PRV, the facility condition index, And then the big item there is the current FY work cost, or the deferred maintenance for that location. And that's really the number that we want the location personnel to focus on, to reduce and to create projects for. And with that, I'll turn it over to Andy to talk about the sustainment process.
Good afternoon, everybody. I also like to thank Doggone. This has been a great week, collaborating with colleagues and speaking with everybody. Learned a lot about how everybody's using Builder. It can definitely be used a lot of different ways. So probably going to show you a little different way with the way USDA goes through it. I want to thank Tyler for allowing us to come up and do this with him as well. Thank you, sir. All right, so this first slide. This has been, USDA did all their initial builder assessments between 2015 and 2020. They did the last initial assessment at that time. They have been doing builder database updates via desktop updates since 2021. And we've been assisting them with doing that since then. The process was originally completed. The original form we used to do that was a fillable PDF form. It was kind of not user-friendly. We have since moved to a Excel format that is much more accurate and user-friendly for them to fill out and get the information back to us to update the builder database. If you look at this, these sites, these numbers on these don't match up with what Tyler's slide said. We inventoried the sites in Builder differently than USDA reports on their sites. So when we went through the initial INAs or assessments, if we made multiple site visits to one location, we numbered them. So you're going to see Beltsville 1, Beltsville 2, Beltsville 3, Beltsville 4, and so on. So that's why these numbers don't actually line up exactly like his reports do. The chart shows that we're not perfect with getting data back from the sites, but we are getting really close to getting them back. This year, we got 89 reports back out of the 93 sites that we have in Builder right now. So we're getting pretty close. There's a couple that straggle out and don't reply, but we're getting pretty close to where we need to be, I think. So this is our timeline for desktop updates. Each one of these tasks is completed throughout the process of doing desktop updates as we get the information back. The circles are items that Alpha takes care of as we go through this process, and the diamonds are the items that we require from USDA, things that we need to get back from them. So each year, Alpha generates a new builder work plan every year that we go through this process. There's 3 things that we need to do that we need help with USDA to do before we can complete the work plan. So USDA determines what their inflation rate is every year, and we go through the database and update that inflation rate to make sure it is what they want for that fiscal year. We go through their cost book and we look for any anomalies that may have occurred and things that may have changed. So we work with USDA to rectify all those and make sure that those are as accurate as we can get them. And then we verify that, I think as we talked yesterday, USDA matches all their building PRVs to the total system CRVs. So we make sure that all that matches up after all these numbers are updated to ensure that the building CRV, or PRV, sorry, matches the CRV for the building. After we do these, we generate the new annual work plan and, and make sure that all of the funded items from the previous year roll over to the new year. As Tyler said, that's the main thing that they usually focus on is the work. We need to know what's funded, what's not funded, and what needs to be funded. So we'll go through one of these reports. So this is a final 4-8 report that was generated for USDA to do desktop updates. There's a lot of information on this. Basically, it is what it says. It's a final 4 report and a final 8 report mashed together. and we make sure we get as much of the information together as we can so that the site can update builder as accurate as they can get it. All right. This portion shows the facility name, work item description, section name, quantity, unit measure cost. All these items help the site determine what this work item is in the field so that they can identify it correctly so that they know what we're looking at. This portion of the report shows the funding status, the equipment, the instructions from us, the notes, and the percentage that was replaced. So this portion of the report, they get to tell us what the funding status is on these items. So we actually generate this report, and then we actually format it so that depending on the funding status that they pick in that column, it gives them specific instructions as to what columns need to be filled out throughout the form so that we can update builder accurately and get the data in the database as accurate as we can get it from their site. All right. This next section shows that this is where we capture all the section details for the items when they send it back to us, as far as equipment type, make, model, serial numbers, things like that, so we can make sure that they are selecting the right equipment and we are taking the correct one out. There are instances where, because of the Final Four, we'll have multiple line items for one section for things that are grouped. This allows us to make sure that we are taking out the right piece of equipment and adding in the new one that's been installed. Oh, excuse me. Let me go back, sorry. One more, where'd I go? Did I go back too far? I'm going the wrong way, I keep going backwards. Hold on. Yeah, keep it. I was actually clicking on the screen, sorry. All right, sorry. All right, so after we get the information back from the sites, we go through and we verify all the data. We compile any questions we have for the site, and we send RFI emails back to the site to get more information where we need it, or we schedule Teams calls to discuss it with them over the phone, just to make sure that we are getting the information that we need and that they need in the database to make sure that we are updating their system. All right. After that, we run the new work plan and prioritize all the items, and then we verify that all of the funded item statuses that came over from the previous year are correct, and then we generate, after that, we generate we export a work plan out of the builder, filter that for waiting funds items, and send that back to the site. And then I think I'm gonna pass it off to you. You guys do something else to that report after we do.
Yeah, so once we have the final DM numbers back from Alpha, we then go in and add the structures to that report from our real property system. We also add 3 years escalation/inflation to those numbers so that we can, kind of like a PALM cycle program, budget for funds. And then we then send those reports back to the location so that they can use them for estimating purposes to create projects at the location level and at the area level to start either requesting funds or fund out of their own budgets. We then, like everybody else, roll up those DM numbers and send them to Congress. The last thing we kind of wanted to hit on were some of the challenges in this process, because there's no process that doesn't have its own challenges. Because we're so interested in the funded and the completed items that location has completed in the previous year, when we rerun those work plans after that data has been entered into Builder, sometimes it can get a little wonky. Builder doesn't always keep that status of funded when the work plan is rerun, and we have to pay careful attention to if that status has been maintained, and then we go back and adjust it if need be. Some of the other challenges that I know we face, and probably many of you face as well, is a lot of our locations don't have dedicated facility personnel, and those locations are typically either relying heavily on outside contracts that they have set up to do their O&M and maintenance, or they're relying on personnel who that isn't their main duty to do facility maintenance, so like a lab tech or a researcher, or in a lot of cases an administrative officer who wears so many hats already, and that's just one more thing in their toolbox that they now have to do. In some cases, the equipment install year may be estimated, and or the section details may be omitted from the builder database. So when we send those reports out to the location, they don't always fill out the make, model, serial number when we get it back, but we do notate that it has been replaced or repaired, whatever the case may be. And when we do reassessments, or when we get that information later, we go in and fill it out. Finally, I want to leave you with this. Not all of our locations have been assessed to date. I mentioned earlier that 82 out of our 93 have been done. The other big thing is they're getting pretty old. Our first assessments were done in 2015. That's coming up on 9 years ago. We are in the process of determining a good cost plan and a good scope of work and potential risk analysis for doing new assessments. When I say risk analysis, everybody has a budget. Everybody's budget is low. We can't necessarily afford to do a full-blown reassessment across all of our locations. So we want to do an analysis to see if there's some spots that we can shave money. Like, do we really have to look at the foundation again? What's the risk if we don't look at the roof again? Can we trust the HVAC curves that builder spits out? So we are trying to do that to develop a plan for our next round of reassessments. And then the last bullet point that I've heard talked about in this conference before, and then many people probably feel this pain, is builder dollars versus project dollars. Like, is there something we can do to get that closer? That's one of the biggest frustrations we hear from our areas and our locations is builder tells me it's going to cost this, but I know for a fact it's going to cost this. We just try to reiterate that builder's the starting point, and we want you to go do an independent government estimate on all of your projects, but builder is definitely better than nothing. With that, I just want to thank everybody again, and if anybody has any questions for myself or Andy, feel free.
Hello, Danielle Crouch with JGMS. Is there any distinction between real property and equipment that is used solely for research, or is it all blended together in your inventory?
It is not blended together, and we try to make that distinction very clear. We get that question a lot from our locations when they're fixing something. A good one that I got the other day was air gas tanks for research, and we had to make the distinction. We had to let them know that if you're using that for research, that's coming out of a different budget than your facility maintenance.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the desktop updates, have you found that your need for field assessments has dropped? Will you be able to extend that like 2 additional years with confidence in your data? Because I'm sure everybody knows, getting down the field is expensive and interrupts research and does a lot. This is the first time I've seen a longer data study on desktop sustainment and see from feedback from the sites. How long does that kick the can down for you?
So I really wish I could give you a number. Because we're so budget strapped, we went the desktop route to really try to do something versus a big reinspection effort. We do notice that we get good feedback, and we feel like we can maintain the data better that way, but I can't put a year to it or a number to it.
Thanks.
Hey, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Question about the 3-year escalation numbers. So how did you come up with I guess whatever you wanted to apply to the factor to be able to come up with those 3-year escalation numbers?
So we use engineering news record is what all of our engineering project managers have access to determine escalation factors, and we use their projected numbers for that.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, guys. And for the record, I say pecan. My wife and her family think I'm crazy for saying it that way. All right, we're going to take like 2 minutes just to mic up, folks. So stand up, stretch a little bit, don't go too far away, and we'll be right back.